Tough day. Obviously disappointed to come back home for homecoming. Great crowd, great weather. Appreciate the fan support for coming out. Fragile football team right now. As much as I hate to admit it, we are struggling to overcome some of the injuries. It's not for lack of want to. Guys are working hard, but we're doing some things that are uncharacteristic, for our football team. Some of the penalties, some of the mistakes, those are some of the things that are uncharacteristic for us. And when you're fragile and you get off, some things happen during the course of the game that are challenging. We struggle to overcome those. I encouraged every young man in that locker room, man, there's better days ahead. And you just got to continue to fight, and you got to continue to believe, and you can't let, the negative that happened, affect you. We got a game again here in 5 days, and we just have to stay together here. It's going to be obviously a lonely world because it's going to be our football team and our locker room really, against everybody else. And not in the net. I'm saying that obviously, it's tough when you're 2-5 and you lose some fans, you lose some supporters. Now we got to just stay the course and fight. And our young guys got to continue to work hard to develop. And, some guys are continuing to grow up every week, and that's part of it. It's not easy. It's hard. And I would, obviously hate that we can't capitalize when you have a great crowd like that and get a win at home, especially for homecoming and the number of alums that came back and had an opportunity to see their faces. That it hurts. It hurts. I can't lie. And we just have to keep our chins up. We got to continue to work.
Mike, you say fragile. You'd hope the week off would kind of rejuvenate things and give them a different outlook on it. Now, having gone through this emotionally, mentally,
when I say
guys.
Yeah, when I say fragile, when things start to go against us in a game, we talk all the time about staying the course. If you're, to use a boxing phrase, if you get punched early and you get knocked down, you got to get back up. There's 12 rounds, there's 4 quarters. You got to continue to fight the fight. When I say fragile, when things happen to us that go against us early in the game, man, we're fragile that way. Like, somebody feels like I got to do something extra special now to get ourselves out of a rut or to get ourselves out of a negative. So when I say fragile, I mean that. I still, obviously when I met with every guy last week, I believe that they still, have a positive outlook and a positive vibe about Ball State University, but we just got to continue to fight, and guys are growing up, and listen, we miss some of those guys. It's hard, when you look on that sideline and you see Riley Neal and James Gilbert and Darian Green and Jordan Hogue and Alex Joss and Pat Maloney, and there's some guys that have played a lot of ball, and you can't replace that experience. We're trying. You look at some of our linemen, and some of those young guys are starting their 6th or 7th game, and they're getting better, but yet they're still going against some experienced defensive linemen in this conference, man. And this is a good conference. I've known that for years, and it's competitive. And many people say this. The MAC games are tougher than the out-of-conference games. They're more physical. So guys are getting thrown into the fire a little bit here, and we just got to fight and scratch and stay the course.
You switch quarterbacks at the end of the game. Who are you going to start Thursday?
Jack got an elbow thing that he dealt with there, so we'll rep, huh? Yeah, so he got dinged on his elbow there on the one sack. So could he have sucked it up? Maybe, but I opted to go with Zach in that situation, and we'll just kind of see where he's at in the morning when he comes back in the building, and we'll get Zach reps, and we'll see where it goes.
So you think if Jack is healthy, he'll be the guy?
Oh, I think it's I need to watch the tape first. I kind of need to see where we're at, playing a good football team in Toledo, and obviously I know what they're all about on the defensive line, and we got to be able to move the pocket some, and so we'll look at some different things. And so without seeing the tape yet and evaluating where Jack's at, it'd be too premature for me to make a decision this second. But obviously we'll get into that first thing in the morning and see where we go.
You guys gave up a few big plays on
Yeah.
some 3rd and longs. The secondary kind of fell apart there on those.
Yeah.
What do you say about that?
Well, obviously it was a communication situation. We're got one safety on one page and you got the corner on another page, and so you can't give up big ones like that. I don't want to sit here and give you an excuse for that. That's obviously a communication problem that we got to get cleaned up, and that can't happen when you allow an uncontested one like that. That works against you, and that's why I say, there's some things happen that when we're fragile and you start to do some things that are a little bit uncharacteristic, somebody tries to take a chance or somebody tries to do something special in order to make something happen or make a big play or create a spark, and that's what gets you in trouble. And so we can't do that. And so no excuse for that. We got to look at the tape. We got to get that. You got to get that addressed.
Quarterbacks were sacked, I think, 8 times today. Was that offensive line, or was that some on the quarterbacks as well, or how would you kind of?
It's hard. The drop back passes, some of them we had were max protection, where we only had 3 guys in the route and we were still giving up sack. Obviously, we're playing. We knew that Osman's a heck of a football player. Their defensive line is an experienced defensive line anyway, and so we got to look at that. We got to see what we can do to help our guys out, whether it's moving the pocket a little bit more, whether it's getting more involved screen wise. But yeah, that's obviously a concern, and it speaks a little bit to. And when you see some of the guys, the Caleb Slavins of the world, 7 games into his career. Andrew Paynish is 7 games into his career. Ricketts is probably 4 games into his career. Vinny's the experienced guy there. Caden Booker, 2nd year here now as a starter. But yeah, we're facing some tough challenges right now, and we just got to continue to fight and scratch and try to develop and get in order to get where we want to go.
With so many guys on the offense injured, how limited are you in what you're able to try to do?
Well, anytime you try to put some wrinkles in every week, then you cause those guys, especially the young guys, if they're hearing it for the first time, then obviously playing with a little indecisiveness, and you'd like to think, they know what they got. It's an easy adjustment. At the same time, they got to go to class, they got to go to study table, they're living on their own. So there's challenges, but we got to get that figured out, and that's the hand we've been dealt. And hey, bud, that's life. Sometimes life ain't fair, and hey, we got to deal with what we got, and that's no excuses, and we just got to get back after it.
Coach, a few penalties there, especially near the end of the game. Some what looked like frustration penalties, a little uncharacteristic for your team. What are your thoughts on those?
I believe that same thing. I'm disappointed in the penalties because I take pride in playing the game the right way, and we don't get penalties. And obviously, I addressed it in the locker room after the game about when we are fragile and we do some things that are uncharacteristic. Mark Walton's not one of those guys that typically, is going to throw a punch and get a personal foul. It's frustration. And so we all got to, obviously you got to continue to remind those young men to stay the course, man. Don't let something silly like that, spill over and do something out of character for you because, listen, decisions off the field too. You got to make sure that you can't let the frustration get the best of you. All we have is each other. We got to stay together. We got to love one another. We got to promote the family atmosphere that we take so much pride in.
I think the offense is losing some of its confidence as time goes on, failing to get into the end zone.
We're obviously struggling with confidence, struggling to put drives together, to sustain drives. Obviously, it's not without lack of, Jack's trying his tail off, Zach when he gets in. But, hey, man, we're missing some key guys. We're missing some guys that, are playmakers. And we got to fight and keep scratching with what we got. I can't say that enough. And, listen, there's no excuses. That's what we have, and we got to get it figured out.
What can you do as far as this glaring problem here of third down conversion? You don't convert 5 or 20. Does the line need bolstered? Do you need a new offensive plan?
Well, going into the week, we're number 1 in the conference in third down. So it's been a positive. Today was a little bit of a tough day because they got some pressure on us, giving up 8 sacks. That's a little bit out of character for us, but we just got to, look at protection. We got to look at moving the pocket. We got to try to get Zach or Jack or whoever's in there in a comfort zone there and give them a chance to execute.
Can I slide one more in? NFL players complain about the Sunday, Thursday turnaround. You've got a Saturday, Thursday turnaround, 5 days now. How tough is that on a college football team to make that transition?
Well, the toughest part really is probably class-wise. Now you switch to a midweek schedule, and so you're still trying to juggle your class schedule. And Thursday, guys are still going to be obviously doing study tables, and for some of our guys, it'll be the first time where they go through that. That's the challenging part, and yet, it's a couple of quick turnarounds I was involved in. We played Green Bay on a Sunday night, your squad, and then we turned around and played on the road against Carolina. We won both of those games. So sometimes it can work for you, but you certainly have to adjust what you do in practice. You can't go out and go full speed in practice. You got to go through a walkthrough, allow the guys to get that are banged up. We got quite a few guys banged up today. You know, we got some guys that came out of the game, so we got to give them a chance to get healthy. And so a lot of it will end up being a walkthrough where we can get our guys just back up to full speed before Thursday night.
I'm still pissed, by the way.
Mike, do you think it's fair to ask college kids to do that?
That's not for me to decide. Yeah, I think it's tough. I think it's tough because of the class part of it. You're selling that they're a student athlete. You know, they're not just getting paid to play the game of football. They're a student athlete, and they got to worry about academics, and they're not going to put that on hold. They're professors. They perhaps could have a test. That's a significant test. They're not going to put that on hold. So I do think it's a challenge, especially for college kids. You know, I understand in the professional ranks, a little bit more. It's a pay-for-play league, and that's what you do for a living. But these young men they got class, they got obligations, and that's not going to be put on hold for them just because they have a game and a quick turnaround. So I think it's challenging. I think it's certainly when you play to play two of them in one season like we have this year, I think that's tough.